Welcome back. For those of you that don't know me, I am Picard, comedian and landlord. On today's show, I am going to interview Mark Turcotte, the founder and CEO of Maine Event Comedy.
CEO.
In my last show, I said that I think President Trump should sing this song to Nancy Pelosi and the members of the House to make a deal on the wall.
So why don't you pull me close? Why don't you come
We don't have to dance, do we?
why will you just meet me in the middle? I'm losing my mind just a little. So why
all I
will you
got.
just meet me in the middle?
Oh, so
2 days after I posted the last show, they made a deal.
Yeah.
congratulations! Thank you for making a difference, Bill.
Yeah.
We need more guys
We
like that.
all should meet in the middle in every aspect of our life, even in marriage.
Yeah.
We should.
If you have any questions for Mark or me, write them below this video and I will answer them in the next show. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Thanks for having me, Bill. You went all out. Look at the sign. Maine Event Comedy. I don't even have one of these t-shirts. I really appreciate it. I love the, you spent a lot of time on this. Yeah, I love it. Thank you.
I bet you know a lot about meeting in the middle because you have 3 children and a wife.
I think now would be a good time to mention that I only have 2 kids. Unless you know something I don't. And then this is going to get really weird. Look at the time, Bill. This it's appropriate. This isn't going online, is it? 2 kids. 2 kids.
I am surprised that Trump heard me and sung the song to Nancy and the House members.
Thanks for changing
I
the
guess
subject.
it worked. Anyway, the song Meet Me in the Middle can help solve most all problems in life, especially in marriage.
Yeah.
What do you think about this?
I think it's especially important to know how many kids you have when you're married. If you can both agree on how many kids you have, then it makes marriage go so much smoother. Because if you disagree, it's going to make the anniversaries weird and birthdays and Christmas. It's going to get weird.
On my last show, what did you think of my idea about taking away Congress's income and health insurance and see how fast that will get them working together?
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic idea, and I think it probably would have been solved within 24 hours. If, we take away their big paychecks and their cushy lives and let them live like everyone else for a little while. They'll get to work real quick. Yeah.
Do you think the government should provide health care, or do you think the business sector should provide it, and why?
Well, I think the government should provide it because we pay enough taxes. And I'm also kind of flattered that you're asking me questions about the government, knowing that I tell jokes for a living. That's very nice. Thinking that I have valid opinions on these things. I really appreciate it.
With today's medicine and technology, many more people are beating diseases like cancer.
Yeah, definitely.
But unfortunately, not everyone has access to these treatments due to poor health insurance coverage. How is your wife doing?
She's doing great. My wife is going on 5 years breast cancer survivor. She's doing fantastic. I tell a lot of people she's doing better than I am. So she's great. Yeah, she's very healthy. She watches her diet. She exercises. She has a positive outlook on life, which I think has a lot to do with it. Yeah. So and I try to keep her happy, you know, by getting the number of kids right. I'm never gonna let you forget that, Bill.
Every time that I see your wife on the CMMC commercial on TV, it reminds me of my aunt. She was an amazing woman and loved life. This was why she beat the odds. It was 30 years ago. They gave her 6 months and she turned it into 9 years, even without the medical advancements that they have today.
Yeah. And I think, like I said before, you know, your outlook on life has a lot to do with it too. If you are stricken with that disease, the medicine is great. That's going to help, but you need to help yourself as well. And I used to work at a cancer center called the Dempsey Center, where you know, I tell people we treat the person, not the disease. We let the doctors treat the disease, but we'll come and we'll take care of you and your family members and the people who care for you to make sure that you're doing well mentally and you have a positive outlook. I think you can do a lot with that. Yeah.
I had to ask, why, oh, why did you start performing stand-up comedy?
Bill, I ask myself that question every day, and I think a lot of audience members do too. I started because I felt I had to. I've been fascinated with stand-up comedy ever since I was 12 years old. I saw George Carlin on HBO. George Carlin at Carnegie. And I was like, it was the first time I was ever exposed to stand-up. It was like, you know, one guy on a stage just entertaining this room full of people. He didn't have a partner, didn't have a band, didn't have any props. Just a guy on stage, you know? And I thought it was fascinating. I thought he was hilarious. Obviously, he's one of the best ever. And I also remember in my 12-year-old brain thinking, what if he has to go to the bathroom? You know, what happens then? Because as a 12-year-old, that's what you think, you know, when you see this. But ever since then, you know, I've been a fan of stand-up. I've been a consumer of stand-up comedy albums and merchandise and things like that. But I never started. I never knew how to get started, never knew where to get started, and I just kind of in the back of my mind knew that someday I would. Then life happens, jobs, marriage, 2 kids, and then my kids got older. And I'm like, well, maybe now's a good time to start. Because in comedy you work a lot of weekends, and I wanted to be, I didn't want to have any of those regrets, like, you know, I missed my son's first steps because I was, you know, at the Comedy Connection or something. So yeah, my kids got older, and I felt a lot less guilt leaving the house, you know, on a Friday or Saturday night, or, you know, weekends behind. To perform, and I've been going just over 6 years.
Did you take a comedy class like I did at the Comedy Connection?
I took a workshop. I took Tim Farrell's workshop. Yeah, same deal with you? Yeah. I took Tim's, and that gave me everything I needed to get started. You know, we bring our notebooks with us to the workshop, we write jokes, we perform them in front of our classmates, and we get feedback. And you know, if you know, you had funny stuff or not, and more than anything, what that workshop did is it introduced me to the comedy scene in Portland. Because as you know, in Lewiston there was nothing. 6 years ago there was no comedy at all. So that introduced me to the open mics and the workshops and the shows and all that. So, you know, I would go to open mics every week. I drive to Portland, you know, 2-3 times a week to do open mics and get better and try to get booked on shows. And then, you know, eventually I started my own thing. But what about you? How did you get started?
About 10 years ago, I went to the Comedy Connection in Portland with my best friend. There was a flyer about a comedy workshop. I thought that it sounded fun, so I signed up. The teacher kept on making up excuses for why I could not be in the class, like it's already filled up. The stage has a step, the building has steps, and on and on.
Yeah.
Wow.
I finally got in after calling the owner.
Yeah.
After the 8-week workshop was over, the teacher loved me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He saw that I was really funny after he gave me a chance.
Yeah.
It was a lot like some women never giving me a chance.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But what happens when they do? It's pure magic, isn't it? It's pure magic.
At the graduation show, he gave me more time than anybody else in the class.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that was Tim? That's Tim Farrell? Yeah.
I have been doing stand-up comedy ever since, and I love it.
Yeah.
It's a drug, isn't it? There's nothing like making a room full of people laugh. It's a drug, and I've heard some people say it's better than sex. I don't know about you, but I'm not going to answer that question right now. That's right.
I enjoy changing people's misconceptions through my comedy.
Yeah.
I've seen you do that at every show.
Yeah.
Yep.
As you know, being a comedian does not pay the bills.
Yeah.
Sing it, sister!
So, I have been a landlord for over 20 years, and I enjoy it most days.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think starting Maine Event Comedy was a great idea.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that happened. That was never intentional. That was more out of necessity because I needed stage time.
Yeah.
So I'm like, there were only so many opportunities in Portland,
Yeah.
and I didn't know where to go outside of Portland. And I'm like, well, why don't I start making my own opportunities?
Yeah.
So I started contacting venues and producing shows in different types of venues, and I started out with the fundraising series at the Fireside Inn. Yeah, Comedy Fix. You've been there. Yeah, and that was really successful. We sold out a bunch of shows. I think it held 125 people. We sold out a bunch, and then they got new ownership, and they took that comedy room and they turned it into a disco or a nightclub. I should say a nightclub. That shows how old I am. I still call it a disco. Yeah, so it's they turned it into a nightclub, and that failed miserably. And I never thought to go back because by that time I already had too much going on. So I never went back. But it was fun, and what that experience did for me, we did a lot of good for the community because every one of those shows was fundraisers, just about every one. And then I started Maine Event Comedy. And it started, contacting other rooms. By the time the Fireside was done, I knew how to produce a show. I made a lot of contacts, comedian contacts. So I had, I think by that time I booked 75 to 100 comedians in that year and a half to 2 years. Now I think that number is over 300 that I've worked with. So, yeah, that taught me, that got me rolling as a show producer. It was only one venue, but I learned a lot in those that year and a half or whatever it was at the Fireside.
What gave you the idea?
To start Maine Event Comedy? It was out. Well, actually, we talked about the Fireside. That was more what I call the Comedy Fix series, and that was the fundraising shows. Maine Event Comedy, it was like, these fundraising shows are great, and I'm putting a ton of work in this, and it's starting to take up a ton of my time. And as you mentioned earlier, you don't make a lot of money in comedy, so I'm like, it's time for me to not make any more money in comedy. So I started Maine Event Comedy, and those are, I wanted to book legitimate headliners, and do more of a traditional opener feature headliner type of show, which I did. I started a few shows like that at the Fireside, and then moved on to other places. But I've always been a fan of the, I like the showcases, like the comedy fic shows, they were showcases. I've always been a fan of the opener, feature, headliner because it gives you a chance to build. You know, if you have somebody there as the opener, they're like, you know, I'm gonna keep working, and next time I come here, I'm gonna be a feature, and then you keep working, and you get to be a headliner. I've always liked the progression in comedy too, because it keeps you writing and it keeps you hungry.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started Maine Event Comedy so I could not make any money and do twice as much work.
Yes.
I'm not a very smart man, Bill.
How many locations do you have now,
Oh my
and
God.
where are they?
Right now I have, I think, 12. From Scarborough to Bangor. And I have, you've been in most of them. I have craft breweries. You know, craft breweries are huge now. So I'm doing like Bare Bones Beer in Lewiston, where you've been a bunch.
Yeah.
Fore River in South Portland. I've got Island Dog Brewery in South Portland. Bangor Beer. If you ever want to come to Bangor, let me know. It's just a short drive. And also, Nonesuch River Brewing in Scarborough. I'm doing that one too. That one starts next week. And also some small theaters that you've been to as well, like Johnson Hall. Excuse me, Johnson Hall in Gardiner. 49 Franklin in Rumford, that Mystic Theater that somebody got a standing ovation at. I can't remember. I had somebody close out a show and they got a standing ovation. It'll come to me. It'll come to me one of these times. Looked a lot like you. What a Somerset Abbey in Madison. That's a great one. And I hope I'm not forgetting any. Doolin's Pub in Litchfield. I start tonight, so you're gonna have to come do that one too. And yeah, I think, is that it? God, I hope so. That's a lot. I'm getting tired just listing them. Okay, I think I'm, oh wait, School Street Pub in Gorham. Can't leave that one either. Yeah, every third Saturday. No, second Saturday. I don't even know anymore. I just don't know.
Are you looking for more locations?
You know, if the right opportunity presents itself, absolutely. Like the great thing now is after, excuse me, after, you know, so many years, I've been producing shows for over 6 years now, that my name has gotten out there a little bit, and the name of Maine Event Comedy has gotten out there a little bit. So venues are starting to contact me now, instead of me, you know, chasing everyone down and chasing comedians down. People are starting to contact me, which is nice. So I get to be a little more selective when it comes to venues, because there's a certain show I want to produce. I have, you know, despite what many of the viewers may think, I do have standards. And I like to produce quality shows. So if it's in a situation where it's going to be a loud environment, and you know the lighting's not great, people just, you know as well as I do, it doesn't take much to produce a really good comedy show, but it's so easy to screw up, right? They're going to be able to see you, they're going to be able to hear you, and the audience has to pay attention. If any of those things are lacking, then the show isn't going to be any good. So you know, back when I was booking every place that had a spot in the corner of the room where I could fit a microphone, you know, that didn't bother me as much, because I needed stage time and I needed to work on my material. But now I want to go to places where I know I can produce a quality show, and I want to put comedians in a position where they can succeed and be comfortable.
How difficult is it for you to get comedians to commit to the locations here in Maine, especially the out-of-state comedians?
You know what's funny? I have a forum on my website now where I list all the open spots. And people go on there and they'll sign up. They'll put their name and all the locations that they want to do. They don't get them all. You know, they just, whatever ones they're available for. But the funny thing is, like the room I have in Bangor, at Bangor Beer, which is 2 hours plus from where we are now, I get a lot of people from Boston wanting to do that show. And it's like, it's got to be a 5-hour drive from Boston. And the Boston comedians will sign up for it, and I feel obligated to send them an email going, you know, this is in Bangor. Like, get the map out, look at where Bangor is before you commit, because it's a haul. And not one of them has been scared away by that. They want to do these shows. And I think part of the reason a lot of Boston comedians like coming to Maine and doing my shows is because they get more time.
Yeah.
You know, there's I don't think they can do, I don't know, 12, 15, 20-minute sets in Boston because they're all, there's a lot of comedians on every show, so they gotta tighten them up a little bit. But I'm happy to give them the time. Yeah.
When I first started comedy, it was just a hobby. Is Maine Event Comedy your only job now?
It feels like a full-time job, Bill. But thankfully it is not. I have another job that doesn't pay the bills. It's it's radio. I work for Gleason Media. I do the morning show on Z1055 and 96.9 right on Center Street in Auburn. You probably passed by it a million times. Yeah. So that I do. I'm on the radio from 6 to 10 every morning doing my show, and I also maintain their websites and help out with other stuff. So it's yeah, I've been doing that for I don't know, 4 months now, and I love it. It's 3 miles from home. Yeah. I had to do. I did a morning show in Norway on their country station in 2016. Had to get up at 3 a.m. every morning. And I lasted a year. I was still doing comedy too, like weeknight comedy. I'd get home from like Bullfini's at, I don't know, 11 o'clock, get up at 3, go to work. It was brutal. I can't believe I lasted a year, but I did. Yeah, now this situation is a lot better. Yeah, I like it.
Preforming is the fun part, but Mark, you do a lot more, like preparing, advertising, and booking the shows and the comedians, which becomes the most time-consuming.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That is, I spend a lot of time, like before I go to the radio station in the morning, I'll go on the computer, and that's like my Maine Event Comedy time. That's when I do a lot of the booking. I'll design some flyers, reach out to venues, make sure everything's all set. You know, I have an email list that I maintain and try to promote the shows, and it is, you're absolutely right, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. You know, sometimes I do t-shirts, and so it is. It's a lot of work, but it's fun. You know, everything I do in comedy or for Maine Event Comedy is fun. It's like, and when it stops being fun, I'm not going to do it anymore. So I get to work with really good people. And I get to do what I love. And, you know, it's the same with you. When you come do the show, you're doing what you love. You can tell. And people respond, and there's nothing like it.
How do you come up with the jokes that you use on stage?
A lot of people, when I first started, I would write down every word to every joke. You know, and my favorite thing to do would be to go back and delete words. Because, like, is this word necessary for this joke? You know, you do the same thing. It's, you know, you're editing and you're trying to take a joke that's 20 seconds long and turn it into 15 seconds or 10 seconds, and just really tighten the screws on those jokes so get them really good to go. And as I gain more experience, I start to trust myself a little more, and now a lot of the writing I do comes on stage. Like, I'll try a new bit at an open mic or a workshop, and, you know, it'll go over a little. I mean, if you get a few chuckles at an open mic, you know you got something. So I'll go home and I'll work on it a little more, and eventually it'll turn into something. But now, it's like, I don't force myself to sit down and write every day. I prefer to just write jokes as they come to me. You know, I'll be driving home from a show and I'll think of something. It's like, that's a bit. And then, you know, I'll get my little recorder and record just a couple of words just to jog my memory, and get home and I'll work it out. But yeah, and they tend to come in bunches too. Like, I'll go through a week where I don't think of anything, and then on a Sunday night when I'm, you know, coming home, I'll think of 3 things that have potential, and then I'll write those down and try to work with them. But yeah, the process for me has changed drastically over the years since I started.
Can you tell us a joke?
Oh boy, you know what I've been doing? I've been writing a lot of one-liner jokes, and I've actually come up with a character that I've been using on stage called One-Liner Guy. Because a lot of my stuff is a little long form. You know, it's storytelling. So I'm like, I need some stuff, I need some quick hitters. Just, you know, I host a lot of shows too. So if I'm like, while I'm hosting, you just want to get those quick laughs from the audience. So I wrote the one-liners, and I want to know what you think of this one. It's stupid. So I designed an ad. I'm sorry, let me start over. I designed a newspaper ad for cold medicine, and I requested that it be placed under the weather. I'm embarrassed that I just said that. And it's recording. This is documented. You know? That was horrible, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. I like you fake laughing. That's I appreciate it. How about this one? Wait a minute. How about this one? Okay, you'll like this. I was checking into a hotel, and the clerk at the hotel said, "You're all set to go, sir. Is this your overnight bag?" And I said, "Yes," and she's going to need a taxi in the morning. All right, look at the time. I should, you should I'm just
Have you ever thought about performing at colleges?
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm doing that Monday. Yeah. It's going to be tough. Because everybody's so sensitive now. You know, you can't talk about anything. But I'm going to take those 2 jokes I just told you. And I can't use the second one because people are going to be offended by it. But the first one I might be able to use, the cold medicine one. And then I'm just going to say goodnight and hope no one was offended and try to collect my money and run. It'll be the shortest comedy set at a college in history. And but yeah, and you know, you follow the news. You know what the climate is like now. Like I've seen you tell Trump jokes before, and like as soon as you mention that word, you just look at people's reactions and they get all weird. You know, so it just seems like everybody's offended by everything now, and in colleges especially because they're young people, you know, and they're trying to find their way in the world. They're not exactly sure, and yeah, they won't hesitate to tell you you're off base or some subject is off limits, even though. You know, you could tell them a joke that's been working for 6-7 years, but you try it at college, and they're like, we're not having that here. Yeah, get out. But yeah, I'm going to try it. I'll let you know how it goes. It'll probably last 3 seconds.
I would like to do more college shows. It is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I would love to see you do a college show. I'd also love to see you get away with your Trump jokes. A college show. So don't take those out. If you do a college, don't take them out. Yeah, weather the storm.
What is your long-term plan for Maine Event Comedy?
To keep going, I think, you know, I'd love to maybe get another theater or 2. I love the theater shows because everyone there is invested in the show. You know, I still have bar shows. And I love them. And what I love about the bar shows is they're a challenge. You have to. Not everyone in the bar came to see comedy. You know, so you're kind of in their territory. Some people might want to sit at the bar and talk to their friend all night, or watch the game and root for their team all night, and all of a sudden in the corner there's comedy. But I do enjoy that challenge. So I like those rooms, but I also I also like theaters. Theaters are fun because people are so invested in the show. It's a higher ticket price, so they're invested not only monetarily, but also they want to see what they're getting for their money, so they will pay attention and hopefully be a good audience and enjoy the show. But yeah, and theaters are a lot less work for me because I have nothing to set up. I just have to show up. So you know, some of these shows I got to bring lighting, I got to bring sound, I got to bring all the equipment and all that. So yeah, they're theaters are fun and I love them, but I also love the other venues too. You know, they have their different characteristics about them that make comedy fun. I don't want to ever stop learning. So if you can go in and with a loud bar crowd and learn how to wrangle them and get them on your side and get their attention and get them laughing, that's as good to me as, you know, a killer show at a theater. What about you? What's your long-term plan for comedy?
To be recognized by the bigger comedians like Bob Marley and other big names. I would also like to perform at Caroline's in New York and Comics at Mohegan Sun in Connecticut.
I I can totally see you doing that. You would bring the house down. I don't know if we want to let Bill Picard loose in New York City, though. I'm not sure that's a good idea. Or a casino. Are you a gambler? Oh, geez, yeah, we can't, Bill. All right, just promise me if you go to Mohegan Sun, I want to go with you so I can keep you away from the slots. All right.
Also, keep performing for Maine Event Comedy with you all over Maine.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I always have a good time with you, and it's so much fun to see. When I first started working with you, you don't know how people are going to react. And you know that you address that with your first line in your act. You don't know how people are going to react. The best part for me now is when I introduce you and I get you set to go and I walk away, I love watching the audience. I know what you're going to do. I love watching the audience warm up to you, and then it just builds and builds and builds, and they fall in love with you. You know, and then you go home with a couple females at the end of the night, and I can't be responsible for what happens after that. That has nothing to do with my show. Remember in Rumford when you kicked your shoes off, and you were sitting with that table of women? Yeah. He was already starting to get undressed. I take no responsibility for that either. My God.
Thank you very much for taking your time to come on this weird and unique show.
Oh my God, Bill, thank you for having me. This has been so much fun, and I thank you for, I'm so glad our paths crossed. I remember the first time I worked with you was at your room in Lewiston. You had put a show together and you had me on. And ever since then, we've been doing shows together, and I hope we continue. It's a lot of fun. And I hope you keep doing Maine Event Comedy shows until you get to that point where you can work with real comedians like Bob Marley. No, but this has been a lot of fun, man. I really appreciate you having me on.
If you have any comments or other ideas on these subjects, feel free to add them on the discussion page or below this video.